So, Spider-Man Homecoming came out a couple weeks ago, and I see a lot of people are saying that this is the best film version of Spider-Man ever. And honestly, I don't really think it is. Now hold on for a second, okay, and just
let me explain why.
Now, let me preface this by saying a couple of things. One, Spider-Man is probably my favorite superhero of all time. Not probably, he really is. So hopefully my opinion has some weight when I say this. I mean, truly and genuinely, Spider-Man is my favorite superhero ever. He's even influenced the characters that I've written in my own books. And two, I want to preface this by saying I don't think that Spider-Man Homecoming was a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. I actually thought it was great. And I think that it actually told its story fantastically. I think it told its story perfectly. However, that said, I still can't say, despite the fact that I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming, that it's the best version of Spider-Man ever or yet. I think maybe the next time we see Spider-Man, maybe, but not currently. And like I said, I'm going to explain why, so just chill out for a second. Now, before I go on to explain why I don't think Spider-Man Homecoming is the best version of Spider-Man, I'm going to take a minute to talk about all the things I think Spider-Man Homecoming did right, and why I think it was actually a pretty great movie overall. One of the best things about Spider-Man Homecoming was its story and the themes that it was trying to display. It displayed one theme particularly well, despite there are a couple of other smaller thread lines in there, and that was the theme of being humble. This was a constant stream throughout the entire course of the movie and the main driving force behind the plot. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, thought that he was ready to be an Avenger, but really, he wasn't. So Tony Stark wanted him to stay low to the ground. He wanted him to, as he puts it, be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He wanted Peter to, gain a repertoire and kind of understand the weight and the responsibility of being a superhero before he put the fate of the world in his hands. Which is actually totally reasonable and understandable considering the age that Peter Parker is right now. He's a 15-year-old boy. He's still in high school, he's still doing his thing, and that's all well and cool. So I think that the actual story itself of Spider-Man learning to be humble, Spider-Man learning, to take things one step at a time and learn how to grow instead of trying to jump into an older person's shoes, is a really good story. And I think the movie told the story perfectly well. One of the things that I think was fantastic was the choreography. One of the most important things I heard about storytelling when I was growing up, back in the 3rd grade, was show, don't tell. And I think Spider-Man Homecoming did this amazingly. One thing that we saw constantly is Spider-Man is messing up all the time. We see he falls down when he tries to take a swing in different places. The movie didn't just tell you that he was just a kid, because, Tony Stark and even his friend, they did tell him a lot that he was just a kid. But the movie did a good job of actually showing us that these guys were right. Peter did need to learn, and Peter did need to grow and change. The choreography did a masterful job of combining the creativity and ingenuity Peter Parker had just as Spider-Man and being an intelligent person with his inexperience, and I cannot praise the movie enough for that. The theme of being humble and learning to humble yourself and, take things one step at a time is displayed perfectly. I really can't bite the film for that. So, despite the fact that I think that this movie told its story very well, and despite the fact that I really like the choreography and the action scenes, and despite the fact that I honestly do rate this movie pretty freaking high, why can't I say then that Spider-Man Homecoming is the best film version of Spider-Man? Well, for one very important reason, and that is, well, the theme of Spider-Man Homecoming. And what I mean is that, well, Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming is kind of an arrogant twerp. He really is. He's sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. He's trying to do a lot of things because he thinks he's ready for greatness, but he really isn't. He does need to be humbled, and this is true, but is that really Spider-Man? Is that really the Spider-Man character that I grew up with, or most of us grew up with? Well, I don't really think it is. I think Spider-Man in his core, from back in the comic books, and back even in the 90s version, and even in the Sam Raimi films, was always a character of astonishing levels of humility. In fact, this was a lesson that Peter Parker learned before he actually became the full-blown Spider-Man. He learned with great power comes great responsibility. It's his freaking tagline. It's a story about, well, Spider-Man, at least for me, has always been a story about a young man who's really humble, trying to do what he thinks is right. It's not really a story about him trying to obtain this humility. He kind of already had it because he's already faced with the fact that, well, he already let something bad happen before and he doesn't want to let it happen again. So, to put it bluntly, Tom Holland just isn't relatable as Spider-Man. I mean, seriously, if we take stock at how Spider-Man is as a character, let's just say in the Raimi films versus how he is in Homecoming, he's just not the most relatable of characters ever. At least not to me personally. One of my favorite things about Spider-Man, and actually one of the best things a lot of people claim about Spider-Man, is the fact that he is relatable. It's the fact that Peter Parker's life does accurately reflect the life of many other people, despite the fact that he's a superhero. He isn't some guy with a bunch of money. He isn't some guy who was destined for greatness. He's not the chosen one. He's just a kid who got bit by a spider and just was like, man, maybe I should do something with these abilities. And originally, he wasn't like that. Originally, he wanted to be a showman, and it was the death of Uncle Ben that humbled him. It's really funny because when I got done watching Spider-Man Homecoming, I didn't feel satisfied, and it took me a little while to figure out why that was. Why didn't I have the same connection I had with this Spider-Man as I did the other Spider-Man? And I think part of it has to do with not only my age, but also the fact that Tom Holland just isn't a very relatable Spider-Man. I mean, let's take stock and actually look at his character traits, right? I mean, he's a little bit of an arrogant twerp, which really isn't the predisposition of a lot of nerdy type people who are going through life. A lot of nerdy people are, sometimes like geeks can be arrogant, this is true, but normally they're pretty grounded people. They're usually social outcasts. But this version of Spider-Man was not a social outcast. In fact, he went to a school filled with a bunch of nerds, was on this decathlon, again with a whole bunch of other nerds who actually respected him quite a bit. Now, I mean, the Sam Raimi-verse Spider-Man was an outcast. He only had like one friend. He was shy and a little awkward. But this Tom Holland Spider-Man has a great degree of charisma. He's going around talking to people. I mean, honestly, I don't really see why he has any trouble being cool in high school, because he's a pretty freaking cool guy. In fact, Andrew Garfield also fails in this regard too. Andrew Garfield also struck me as a too cool for high school looking guy. I mean, like, this guy is over here skateboarding in the hallway. I'm supposed to think that this guy is a social outcast and that girls don't want to talk to him and nobody wants to be his friend? I mean, come on. Even when you look at Flash Thompson in this new Spider-Man verse, Flash Thompson isn't really so much a bully, it's just some kind of jerk-off that Peter deals with from time to time. I mean, what's his best insult? Penis Parker? That's not even creative. That's just makes me think that he has repressed homosexual thoughts for Peter. It doesn't really make me think that he's a bully. I mean, compare this with the Flash Thompson from the Raimi films. I mean, this guy is bigger than Parker, and I mean, to add insult to injury, he's dating the girl that Peter wants to be with. Now that's some real personal shit that I dealt with myself. Like I've actually wanted to date a girl who was dating a guy who was bullying me. This is real shit, which is what I'm saying about the Sam Raimi vs. Spider-Man. I mean, he is a much more relatable character. I can never in my life imagine getting bullied by some kid who's like 2 inches shorter than me and looks like a dweeb and is also a nerd too. It's just not something that I can feel. But growing up, I mean, I had to deal with this constantly, getting bullied by guys who were dating girls that I wanted to be with. And it's not really something I say proudly, but it is something that is relatable. It's something that is a real struggle that young men have to go deal with. Or at least I had to deal with, at least when I was, you know, reading and watching these Spider-Man movies. For me, Spider-Man's merit as a character all comes down to his ability to relate to the audience, or his ability to reflect the feelings that the audience has. And I don't think Tom Holland's Spider-Man accurately reflects that. I do think that he has a great Spider-Man persona, as in he's really charismatic, he's really flexible, he looks beautiful in that suit. I mean, he really does embody the physicality of Spider-Man to a T. But in terms of relating to Tom Holland, it's just not something I can do, honestly. I mean, he seemed to be really, really cool and comfortable in high school. It's just not something that a lot of people who relate to Spider-Man would feel. Let's take stock, shall we, again, as to how he even became Spider-Man. I mean, this guy was given a super powerful suit by a billionaire who was training him to be an Avenger. That's not something that a lot of people really identify with, if we're gonna be honest here. I mean, seriously, I was never given a super powerful suit by some inventor or some really powerful guy. But I have struggled to find the words to talk to a girl I thought was really attractive. I never really felt like I was much bigger or much better than everything around me, but I have been constantly humbled by life time and time again. The Amazing Spider-Man films actually double failed in this regard, not only just by making Peter Parker like really handsome and really cool. I mean, come on guys, I mean, I'm not gay, but seriously, Andrew Garfield, he's a pretty good looking guy, he's really cool. In fact, I'm not surprised that Gwen Stacy wanted to date this man. I'm not I'm not shocked that this relationship occurred. But they also failed in this regard too, and with the whole subplot of Peter Parker's dad being a scientist and genetically tailoring the Spider's genetic DNA to his own to make it so that Peter Parker was the only person who could become Spider-Man. I mean, the whole allure of Spider-Man as a character is the fact that getting bitten by a spider was a random occurrence, random event that could have happened to anyone. Another thing that really bothered me a little bit about Spider-Man Homecoming was, well, it's not really something I can explain with words, but something I can really explain with examples. Like, in the Spider-Man Raimi-verse, you see Spider-Man would sacrifice a lot of his life to save people around him, and he would even stop in the middle of fights in order to save people when they were getting thrown off the train by Doc Ock, or even when he was trying to deliver a pizza and he had to stop to save a couple of kids. Spider-Man feels connected to New York. He feels connected to the world around him. I mean, he's going around just helping people because that's just what he does. Spider-Man in the Raimi-verse is constantly saving people over and over again. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming doesn't save people, because that's not true. He does. But the problem is, Spider-Man is saving people from problems he caused. The incident, which was an awesome scene by the way, was caused by him because he was arrogant enough to think that he could stop this arms deals all by himself. What happened with the in Washington DC was caused by him because he was the one who took the special alien power source artifact and gave it to his friend. Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming is just saving people from problems he caused. He's not really saving people from, you know, getting hit by cars. He's not really saving people who are getting mugged. He's not protecting a little guy. He's protecting people from problems that he caused to occur to begin with. Which, here's the thing, is really perfect for the story it's trying to show us. It goes to show, again, perfectly, show don't tell, Spider-Man is not ready for saving the world because he's actually causing problems himself. However, I just don't think that this is what perfectly encapsulates Spider-Man as a character. Spider-Man as a character, at least to me, has always been one of relatability and groundedness. It's always a character I could see myself in. It's always a character that made me feel like I could be more than myself. And I really enjoy that aspect about Spider-Man. And it's not that Tom Holland did a bad job at playing Spider-Man, because here's one thing I don't think Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi-verse could do at all, and that is he really encapsulated the persona of Spider-Man in the suit. He was snarky, he was flexible, he looked beautiful in it. Again, the choreography was fantastic. But as a relatable character, I just can't say I relate to Tom Holland very often. And that is why I cannot say that Tom Holland Spider-Man is the best Spider-Man yet. Well, I mean, in terms of choreography, yeah, it was fantastic. But in terms of being a relatable, interesting character, he just doesn't do it for me. I honestly have never felt super special and beyond the world around me, but I have always gotten my teeth kicked in by just reality and had to deal with those problems. I just connected more with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man than I did with Tom Holland. And that is, at least for me, the main crux of why I love Spider-Man so much. So, again, this doesn't mean that Spider-Man Homecoming was a bad movie. In fact, if I had to rate Spider-Man Homecoming, it was my favorite movie, Spider-Man 2. It's like, literally like if Spider-Man 2 was 9.2, then Spider-Man Homecoming would be like 8.9 to 9.0. Like it just barely misses it. But that barely is enough to say, nah, I can't say that this is the best film version of Spider-Man yet. Honestly, I think the best film version of Spider-Man would have to encapsulate the shyness and the relatability of Tobey Maguire with the snark, the sarcasm, and the flexibility of Tom Holland, and even Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield did a wonderful job playing Spider-Man as a character too, but not really Peter Parker, which is the main crux of what makes Spider-Man who he is. So that being said, man, I certainly hope you guys got something out of today's video, and if you did, man, go ahead and click the like button. And shoot, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below, and as always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.